Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way for a movie review of a relatively recent movie by a director that I really liked when he did House of the Devil, and maybe not so much when he did The Innkeepers, but I think I pretty much only saw House of the Devil. I really liked that at the time. Probably still would if I watched it again. Was really excited about The Innkeepers when that came out. I blind bought the Blu-ray and was just like, wasn't so amazing, and after that I didn't bother with anything else he did until probably X. This is kind of going to be interesting because I saw X a while back and then forgot I got to rewatch that, but then we recently were able to see Pearl on streaming, so since we recently did it and I've got no intention of ever seeing again, I figured I might as well review Pearl. So this is kind of goofy. I'm reviewing Pearl before I review X, but I'm sure my review of X is going to go up before my review of Pearl. But anyway, not all that stuff doesn't really even matter. I didn't even need to say it, but at any rate, coming your way to review the movie by the name of Pearl, the prequel to Ti West's X, which, like I say, I mean, well, yeah, I guess I'll just talk about Pearl in this review. Apparently X did, good enough to warrant, these both came out in the same year, didn't they? Pretty sure when I looked both of them up, they both have a release year of 2022, so I don't know if X came out in very early 22 and then they're like, oh, quick, we've got the location still, let's go make the prequel or whatever. But anyway, not being, I blind bought X and saw it and wasn't that amazed by it. Not being too amazed with X, I didn't really have much faith in Pearl. I was really surprised when they made Pearl or whatever, and I was like, okay, so it's a prequel to these two younger people dress up as old people in X. It's really confusing. It's like the whatever her name is, Mia. I can't remember what the hell her name is. Was it Mia Goth? So she plays two parts in X, I guess. The young chick who wants to be a star, and then the old Pearl, I guess, in old woman makeup or whatever. So then what's really goofy about this movie is it's like you've got the young character in X that takes place in the 70s who wants to be a star, and I guess the whole premise with that movie is the old Pearl sees herself in this girl. Well, gosh, because it's the same actress, because that's what she wanted to be when she was young. She wanted to be a star, and whatever it took or whatever. So this movie shows the exploits of that, and right around the era of Spanish flu, I think I could say that on this YouTube channel, I think I can say that, but right around the World War I Spanish flu era, and I gotta tell you, when they made this movie, obviously other things were going on, and in regards to, and I was so disgusted when I saw like characters in this movie with, I'll just simply go like this, if you know what I mean, with face clothing, if you will, and I was like, oh my god, and they made this right during the face clothing era, and I imagine if there were people, behind the scenes photos, people who got face clothing on, behind the camera, in front of camera, it was just like, give me an effing break. So this movie takes place right around World War I, in the Spanish flu era, and it's just like, give me a break. And I can only assume it's just filmed on the same location, the same farm location. One thing I will say about this movie is I'm not too keen on necessarily I don't know what I'd call it, just storybook, comic book, goofy, just maybe exaggerated color palette is kind of goofy. Another complaint I have is like, I was kind of hopeful because I appreciate that era, the early 20th century, and I was kind of hopeful, but I was, it should be said, part of me was like, should I blind buy this for like $10 or less? And there was one instance where it was like at half price books for, what was it, 12 on Blu-ray, and I was like, should I get it? And I'm like, luckily I didn't, and then it ended up on Amazon Prime, I think, so we were able to see it for free. Oh my god, I dodged a bullet. I mean, that would have been like, shame on you for X, me blind buying it, but if I blind buy Pearl, that's shame on me, fool me once, whatever the George Bush quote is. But anyway, yeah, so to make a long review not so long, it just shows the exploits of, there's a picture of her in front of the barn of that, X with the axe in this red dress and stuff, and it looks kind of intriguing, but it's this really, it's this, I can't even remember, is it pushing 2 hours? Is it like an hour and 40 something minutes long? It doesn't need to be that long. It's basically just about this character, so Mia Goth plays both the young and the old character in X. So this is a version of, the old character when she's young, early 20th century. She's married. Her husband's over in, World War I, and she's got to look out for dad and, kind of asshole mom. I don't know if dad's supposed to have the Spanish flu. He's like completely like incapable of doing anything. He just sits in a chair and drools and watches his daughter take baths and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know if I can only assume he's supposed to have Spanish flu. And one thing that's so annoying about this movie, it would have been so annoying to see this in 2022 because we were still more into the the depths of whatever bullshittery was going on at the time. But I'm so glad I didn't see this during the bullshittery was happening, because you've got her mom, just being so fearful of this, catching the Spanish flu, and just not wanting the daughter to leave the farm and things. So it's just kind of a humdrum. This is my complaint with a lot of horror movies these days. It's a humdrum, just kind of a just not enjoyable movie, like of her just with this crappy life and a like asshole mom and invalid dad, and she just wants to. What's really pathetic is I don't think this is necessarily that realistic, because this is obviously pre-internet and pre-Instagram and everything. So I mean, I don't know how many women this is like, oh, I want to be a star. Like, I'm sure it's possible, but I mean, it's just like she's so great. You're so lucky to just be able to be on a farm, and she's lucky to be able to grow up on a farm and have to do that kind of stuff and stuff. Instead, she just wants to be a star, and is just completely takes the beautiful location of being on a farm for granted and stuff. But husband's in the war, dad's an invalid, and mom's a bully, and she just gets like, Pearl just gets a little more goofy as the movie goes on. Oh, one thing I was going to say earlier and I forgot is I kind of appreciated the thing at the beginning of the movie, although it's like not accurate. It is and it isn't, like the way the credits go like this, whoosh, on, and then the next one, whoosh. Now it's like that's what they did for trailers back in the 30s and 40s and maybe 50s, is they did the whoosh, the letters and stuff. I don't think that I ever saw an old movie from the 30s, 40s, or 50s that did that for the actual opening credits. That was more like a trailer thing. Whoosh. And I'm not saying that, Ty West shouldn't do it for an actual movie opening credits, but I mean, it kind of made me, it was kind of cool and not cool, because I was like, yeah, they didn't really do it for movies though, they did it for trailers. But I'm not saying there's not a single movie from the 30s, 40s, or 50s that has credits that go whoosh in a trailer from the 30s, 40s, or 50s kind of way. But I was like, that was kind of cool, but not kind of cool at the same time, because they only, from what I saw, did that in trailers back then. But it was just Ty West's way of trying to make, X was a period movie as well. It took place in the 70s, so having only seen that once a long time ago, maybe it wasn't that long ago, months, 6 months or 7 or 8 months ago, I can't remember. I would imagine that kind of has a 70s feel to it. I don't remember. But of course, this movie taking place in the early 20th century has more of an early 20th century feel. But, well, unless I mean, this really kind of should have been in black and white. That would have been really cool. But like I say, the bright colors are just kind of like, why are they like bright colors and whatever? And, the movie isn't necessarily ever get boring. But when you look back on it, nothing really ever happens. She ends up going to the theater and ends up meeting this hunky projectionist guy that she has an affair with, and ends up killing him, and I think he's the first person she kills, and ends up killing mom and killing dad. And who the hell does she kill at the very end? Oh, like her friend or whatever. You can tell, you can tell that this probably wasn't made for that much crazy money, because it's not necessarily a lot of anything going on screen. It's more like, I don't know, yeah, it's it's like with the cover art with her standing in front of the barn in the dress with the axe. It's not like she axes all kinds of people to death in this movie. It's like, oh, well, that's what she does at the very end. She grabs an axe towards the end and axes someone. And then I was like, as much as at this stage of my life, I'm not necessarily that big of a gore hound, but because I was more or less underwhelmed with the movie thus far. Like at the very end, she like, I can't remember who the hell she chops someone's head off and chops the arms off and feeds them, to the gator. So it was like at the very end there was a little bit of like, oh, even though I don't necessarily care about gore one way or another, at least something like happened, And I was like, oh, there's some gore. Me and Beth watched this, and she's like, I think right before she chopped someone's head and arms off and stuff and fed them to the gator, she's like, this is rated PG-13, right? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Didn't you see there's a lot of swearing and the guy who got pitchforked? And then, like, right after she said that, I think Beth said that, then she started chopping limbs off. And I'm like, see? It's not PG-13, but Beth was so underwhelmed that she thought it was, not that there's no such thing as a good PG-13 movie, but anyway, I'm all over the place. But I pretty much said my piece about this movie. Like so many horror movies these days, like the Saw franchise and whatever else, I don't see a lot of them because they're just depressing. This is the exact same kind of thing where it's just depressing. And do you ever, it's like movies are like supposed to escape, you used to kind of escape depressing life. Why would you want to, watch a depressing movie when you can live your depressing life? But I'm not saying that all movies should be roses and sunshine, but I don't know. It's just like, oh well. So I guess that more or less does it. I mean, she just ends up pretty much killing everyone, and then at the end of the movie, her husband, spoiler alert, I mean, who gives a shit? Her husband comes back from the war, and one thing that was kind of interesting is like Mia Goth, is that her name? I think so. She has this kind of interesting monologue, and the best part of the movie, honestly, is probably her little monologue. Her friend that she went to audition with is, she's just like, pretend I'm your husband and talk to me. And when she said that, she got a little more than she bargained for. Like the next 10 minutes or so, it seemed like maybe even 15 is just this monologue from Mia Goth, just spouting off all of her insane, maybe some not so insane, some insane thoughts to her friend. And it's just like, God, that was kind of interesting, how it just kind of let the camera roll and just, there was like 2 or 3 separate occasions during this monologue where the tears will come out, and then she'll be talking, and then this, over time during this monologue they'll dry up, and then more tears will come off and then come out, and then they'll dry up, and then before she's over it, more tears come out. So it's like, I don't even know how long that monologue is, but that's probably the highlight of the movie, because it's kind of like, that's generally not found in a movie like this, like just some kind of a, what are they, vying for an Oscar? I mean, when this slasher movie, that would have been interesting if they would have been nominated. Not that I give a shit about what the hell Oscars and Academy Awards do or think or anything, but would have been interesting to have, like a slasher horror movie like nominated for Best Actress Mia Goth, but it's almost like that's what they were going for with this. But I did appreciate that scene that, where she's talking to her girlfriend, pretending she's the husband and inventing all of her thoughts and stuff, because that's the kind of stuff I really like in some of my favorite movies, like There Will Be Blood or American Psycho. I like that interesting, like, quirky personality of an interesting, quirky character. And the thing that's kind of a tragedy about these movies is those characters that Mia Goth plays, and X in the Pearl in this movie. I mean, it's kind of an interesting, quirky character, but I'm not too sure I'm that crazy about what they end up doing with the character, in this movie and then the other character in the other movie. But yeah, that'll more or less be my review of Pearl. Goodness gracious, I'm glad that I didn't blind buy it, and I wish I hadn't blind buyed X. I was trying to think, like, which one of these do I like more, and I probably like X more because it's got more of that Texas Chainsaw 70s vibe. Not to get too much into it, but I'm at this stage in my life, I'm not sure like all the sex stuff in X is something I need anymore or interested in seeing. Like, God, I'm getting old. But I would have been much more open to that 20s, 30s, but now pushing 50, it's like, skin, flesh, who gives a shit, and all this sexual innuendo, like whatever that takes place in X or whatever. But yeah, I don't know which one of these I like more. I probably don't like them just about the same amount of of much or whatever. That makes a lot of sense. What would my star rating for Pearl be? And I haven't, even though you've probably seen my review of X before you've seen my review of Pearl, I haven't I've reviewed it yet, and I don't know what I give that, so I don't know what I'll give this. But what the hell, a Pearl? I guess I can go as high as, it's so miserable. I can go as high as 1.5 stars out of 4 stars for Pearl, just because, like, I do appreciate the whatever they managed to do of period stuff and the old cars and the old clothes and stuff, and Mia Goth's kind of attractive, like her face and things, and seeing her in the tub and with Daddy watching is kind of fun, and it's not fun to see Daddy watching her take a bath, but. And that, like I say, I think possibly out of both movies, maybe her little monologue in Pearl was my possibly, like I say, I kind of forgot about X, but possibly my favorite part of both of these two movies, that little monologue thing. So I bet Mia Goth is just destroyed that she didn't get nominated. But anyway, I guess that pretty much does it for my review of Pearl. To me it just seems like, oh well, we still got, the X did really better business, or is doing better business than we expected. Quick, and I guess Mia Goth and Ty West co-wrote the script. I don't know if they're lovers, boyfriend. I don't know if they're going out. Probably. I remember seeing that behind the scenes thing of Video House of the Devil, where at the end of the shoot, like, he presented that skinny anorexic main chick. Was it Heather? I always want to say Heather Donahue, Jocelyn Donahue. I don't know what the hell her name is. The chick in House of the Devil. He gave her like some flowers or something. He was probably hoping to what or whatever. But yeah, so it was like co-written between. I don't know if Mia Goth had any part in writing X. I'll have to rewatch that and look at the credits or whatever. But yeah, these two movies don't do a whole hell of a lot for me. And it's strange because you think they would, taking place like in the country on a farm or whatever. And in closing, that one bit where it's like she dances with and humps the scarecrow was kind of interesting. That's like a different version of Wizard of Oz. The uncut or the deleted scenes from Wizard of Oz or whatever. But yeah, these two movies taking place in the country in a farm setting. You think I'd love them, but I don't love them because they were made, in the 2020s. That's why. Not to say that nothing made in the 2020s. I am interested in, and I'm going to see it. I'll probably wait till streaming, but I am interested in whatever that one's called. I just became aware of it, of A Violent Nature or whatever. I'm interested in that because it's really mixed thoughts on it. A lot of people that are more into mainstream stuff think it's too art house, and so it's kind of interesting, like, to me, like, what will I think of it, and from what I understand, that movie's got a lot of gore, on tier with, like, the Terrifier and shit, and, like, I'm just, that pushing 50, I'm, like, kind of over gore and stuff, so chances are, like, I probably won't like the gore in that movie, but I'm interested to see that movie, probably wait for streaming to see that movie, and I'll probably, whenever I see that, I'll review that movie as well. But anyway, talk about a ramble on guy. And I guess that does it for my review of Pearl. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video. Oh my God, I see the light.